Welcome to Sat Chats, the Bitcoin podcast where we chat about sats. Sats are the smallest part of a Bitcoin, the same way pennies are the smallest part of a dollar. With Sat Chats, we are building the world's biggest Bitcoin welcome center to serve as your gateway to generational wealth. So if you are a beginner, we want to chat about sats with you. Head to satchats.com to grab your slot in the studio today. I'm your host, Stuart, Bitcoin Maxi, who wears prescription sunglasses to protect you and your loved ones from my raging hot Bitcoin laser eyes.
And I am your co-host, Chris, founder, CEO of Ithaca Hummus, Bitcoin smash buyer, and proud multi-coiner.
Bing, 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 multi-coin unlock. So hit that like and subscribe, smash that like and subscribe the same way Chris smash buys Bitcoin.
Just get it.
Each time you do, a new Bitcoiner gets his laser eyes. So we are here with Andy. I am bringing to you all satillionaires out there today, Andy. Andy is my friend and has been for years now. Maybe in that 7-year space.
7, 8. Yeah.
7,
just
8.
Thinking about that. Yeah.
We're going to be hearing Andy's Bitcoin story today and maybe even answering some of his questions. But before we do, we're going to want to get to know Andy a little bit, and I'm going to ask him to introduce himself. But before he does, I'm going to introduce this man. Okay. Andy, for all you listening out there, is a brand new breed of American businessman. This individual's potential is so high that we don't have a yardstick by which to measure it. I personally predict that this fellow Andy is going to change this planet before he is dead and gone. That's it, okay? There is not a single person on earth who is a bigger fan of Andy than moi.
Wow.
And that's because I'm incredibly adept at recognizing value long before anyone else can. It's one of the reasons why we're talking about Bitcoin today in a world where only a fraction of people out there know enough about it to see what it really is. It's how I'm able to tell you 100% that the best pavilion in Epcot is the Canadian one. Guaranteed, there isn't a better one, and I will literally fight anybody who tries to tell me that they like the Japanese pavilion better or whatever. It is the Canadian one, okay? The Canadian pavilion is the best one, period. It's also how I know Andy is the greatest. So before we hear your Bitcoin story, Andy, we want to hear who you are. Who is Andy?
My God, I don't know how I can follow up that intro. Only to say that prior to the elimination of Maelstrom, I can make the case for the Norway Pavilion at World Showcase. But
going deep.
That's a deep cut. That's a deep cut right there.
Is it the Frozen ride now? Has it been replaced?
It's the Frozen ride now. Yeah, but Maelstrom was a unique beast. But anyway, Stuart, Chris, great to see you guys. I'm a North Carolina boy. Grew up in Mount Olive in the eastern part of the state, and still have a lot of love in my heart for the land of the longleaf pine. Living in Dallas now, worked in the restaurant industry for a number of years. Really grew up in the industry, and went out on my own a couple of years ago and started a restaurant supply company, which I think will sort of tie in a little bit to the conversation today and how we're trying to start to think about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general with that. But personally, 2 kids, just a girl just over the age of 2 and a boy about a month and a half old. So not getting a lot of sleep around here. Thank you.
Let's go.
And a lovely wife, Lauren, of 5 years. So life is good.
Life is so good.
Yep.
So we've got a businessman on our hands here. You've got some Bitcoin. Tell us your Bitcoin story.
Yeah. So I was thinking about it before we started recording, and I think it goes back to around 2016. I went to a conference, not related to Bitcoin, but stayed with a close friend of mine who I grew up with, who was getting really into it. And, one late night conversation, he sort of, walked me through what it was. We talked about Ethereum for a while. We talked about, the blockchain. He sort of was the first person to kind of break it down for me. And smart guy, obviously, still a very close friend. Also talked a little bit too about, he had just read David Graeber's book about debt and sort of the history of debt and how, in many ways debt predates money, and how this could possibly be, sort of like a way to get beyond that multi-thousand-year paradigm. And it was very, fascinating, late night conversation. And he sort of left me with the advice to, if I wanted to get into this, to dollar cost average, to, sort of very methodically invest and not get too overwhelmed. And I remember, getting on the plane and thinking like, I really want to gamble with this. I think that'd be really fun. And just taking, all of like I took none of the wise advice basically. And so this would have been like late 2016. This is sort of right before the big 2017 run up. And so I started, sort of buying Bitcoin, buying ETH, and then sort of spinning off from there into buying just more and more sort of esoteric coins, many of which are no longer in circulation. And as the really kind of the bull run started in 2017, I was doing very, very, very well on paper, and I was very, very excited. And I was holding, I remember one was supposed to totally reinvent online gambling and was going to be sort of the official currency of casinos online. And there were a few others, just that no one has ever really heard of before. Buying them all off Binance, I think. And held on too long. Did not really kind of take the good lessons of investing in this asset class, I would say. And, watched most of that kind of come crashing back down to zero over the sort of the dip after that bull run. So that was kind of like my first rise and fall with this asset class. And then, sort of a similar story happened in 2021 too, which we can get into, but I'll pause there and stop just kind of like talking about my my failures in 2017.
So someone talked to you about it. That was the first time you heard about Bitcoin. Somebody who really believed in it, late night, maybe kind of getting it all loosened up there. And he's like, hey, dude, you got to check out this Bitcoin, but just go ahead and buy a little bit over time.
Yep.
Just kind of set a regular amount, buy it on a regular schedule, and just kind of stack those sats.
Correct. And if I look back at when that conversation happened and think through, what it's done since then, I want to scream and cry because that would have been a really good thing to do for the last 8 years.
Yeah. Like what price point was Bitcoin around the first time you took a look at it and decided to buy some?
I was definitely sub 10.
Sub 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Hurts.
Well, real quick. Okay. You can give yourself some approval here for whatever price point you buy Bitcoin at, because you've done it, right? So you saw it when it was sub 10K, and you bought it when it was sub 10K?
Mm-hmm. I did.
Okay. And did you smash buy like Chris over here?
I did. Yes.
You smash bought it.
Didn't know the term at the time. I love that term, but that's what I did. Yes.
Yeah. Spirits. So here's this wise individual that says, look, man, Bitcoin's really important. You should dollar cost average over time into it. It's all going to work out. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to smash buy Bitcoin, and then I'm going to yeet myself into some altcoins, and I'm going to go absolutely ape on these random tokens. And what happened to them? They all just went.
Well, some of them are still around. I remember I got very, very into XRP Ripple, and that was a big winner for a brief period of time there. And many of them did not, during sort of the ICO mania of 2017, many of them did not survive. I'm sure many of them too were embroiled in various, securities lawsuits after the fact as well. I think there was some funny business happening with some of these coins too, but yeah. I mean, it was a missed opportunity for sure. I'm thinking back to other stories I've heard. I remember one friend I was living in New York with in 2012. He bought, this would have been sub 1,000 at the time, and it went up about 20%, and then they sold and immediately used the proceeds to go out to a bar. So I think there are a lot of stories of people like that obviously like the famous one is the pizza story, but yeah, I think there are a lot of smaller stories out there too of people doing similar things.
And we love the pizza guy, by the way, because I guarantee 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas was not his entire stack.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
He probably had so much Bitcoin that he's like, dude, I'll give you 10,000 of these for 2 pizzas. Because I have tens, maybe even hundreds of thousands. I bet that pizza guy is so incredibly wealthy right now, and everybody yucks on him for trading 10K for 2 pizzas. That dude's fine. Dude's fine. But to your point, I've got a good buddy named Eric out on the West Coast who we should have on the show. He was at a bar years ago with a girl and a guy, and the guy wanted to impress the girl. So when Eric paid for the drinks, the guy pulled out his device and paid Eric 12 Bitcoin for his drink. Oh. So maybe the drink was $8 to $9 at the time, and he did the conversion. Okay, I'll pay you 12 Bitcoin to try to impress this girl with payment in Bitcoin. He handed Eric $1.2 million for a drink.
Sure.
And there's a website out there that I just learned of, Andy, that back in the day was trying to educate people on Bitcoin. And they said, look, if you can just pass this CAPTCHA form and prove that you're human, we'll send you 5 Bitcoin.
It's amazing.
Can you imagine filling out a CAPTCHA form and getting $500,000?
No.
Insane. So you did your little journey, and a lot of people go on a coin journey, right? There's Bitcoin, and we're a family-friendly podcast. We want to make sure that you can, have your, month and a half year old boy listen to this.
Yeah.
So we don't say what we really mean, but there's Bitcoin and then there's coin, right? Because really, you should just don't even talk about it. We don't even care about it, right? What happened in that 2020-21 space?
That would be what I would call my NFT era. And I'm in
my NFT era.
The Eras tour. We're going on Andy's Eras tour.
This started with NBA Top Shot. I don't know if y'all ever came across that or not, but that was I guess it's probably still around. There were NFTs of various basketball highlights where you could buy you could buy a LeBron dunk, and it was something that lived on the blockchain, and it was basically like a GIF or a video clip trading card that was backed by authenticated as being one of only maybe 500 that was on the blockchain. And very similar story to 2017. I look at it now, basically the exact same trajectory. Was fairly early in on that. I would say I was never really a true believer in terms of the value of some of these NFTs. So I felt like my investment thesis was, okay, other people value this and I don't. So that makes me like a more savvy person in terms of buying it and unloading it. That turned out not to be the case. So, flipped quite a few of the Top Shot cards, started getting into artwork as well, was buying that and flipping that too. And, once
NFT
again,
NFT
artwork. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is that? What gorilla? Sad ape? What is that? What was that?
Yeah, I mean, Beeple was the big one, and then yeah, the board apes. I
Yeah.
never really kind of was at that level. I mean, those were trading for six figures, but you know, again, kind of got caught when that market came crashing down. I would say the most ridiculous and maybe entertaining story that came with that was during that era. I actually wrote a white paper and discussed with people about seriously financing a restaurant off of selling NFTs. So the idea was we were going to basically mint 2,000 different NFTs, and that would buy you basically a royalty for the revenues that came from this restaurant. And then there were going to be like other perks that came along with being an NFT holder. It was similar to something that Gary Vee was doing at the time too. And the way that we had it structured, I talked to an attorney, and he basically said, "This is not a good idea. You should not do this." So you're selling a security. So I backed off on that. But yeah, interesting time for sure.
So you had your initial introduction to Bitcoin,
Yeah.
went straight into your meme coin era or your altcoin era, right? And then from there to an NFT era. And were you continuing to buy Bitcoin, or like when you bought sub 10, did you sell later? Did you continue to stack? Did you ever decide to start dollar cost averaging? Like during that time, did you just have your initial purchase of Bitcoin and you went off into, cryptocurrency land and then into NFT, or was there some Bitcoin happening as well?
Mostly I was, and this again just kills me. Mostly I took the proceeds and took most of what I had invested into Bitcoin and then moved that into first the altcoins and then later into the NFTs. And so by the time this was all said and done, not a whole bunch left, but a lot of great lessons along the way.
Yeah. And it seems like a lot of people have to spend time on cryptocurrencies or NFTs before they settle down and realize that it's just Bitcoin. Just get Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin, hang on to Bitcoin. So one thing that we hope for everyone out there listening is just skip that stuff, okay? Take it from Andy. Don't spend any old time on the cryptocurrencies out there. Don't go chasing NFTs or trying to start restaurants with them. Just buy Bitcoin. Like, just skip that whole part, right? Because let's think about this real quick, Andy. How much Bitcoin did you smash buy that in the 20, whenever that was? When was that? 2017 space, 2016 space. How much did you buy?
It was a good amount in terms of my overall investment portfolio at the time. Yeah.
Okay. Was it more than one Bitcoin?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Was it more than 3 Bitcoin?
No. It's not.
Okay. So let's call it 2 Bitcoin in 2017, and it was sub 10, might have cost you 18 to 20K, right? Here we go. I'm a young dude. I'm loving on this. That would be over $200,000 today.
Correct.
But you got some alt tokens and some NFTs instead.
That's correct.
What happens after your NFT era?
Took a break. Took a break from the entire world of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general, and then I would say just in the last year or so started to actually kind of go about this the right way, and buying a little bit, dollar cost averaging, sort of slowly kind of building back up. Obviously, most of my focus is on just in terms of finance is in growing my business right now. But yeah, I think taking a more kind of sober view of this world will serve me well in the future, because I do think it's here to stay.
So back to staying humble and stacking sats like the rest of us.
Amen.
Right? Just stay humble and stack sats. That's it.
Just accumulate.
Do you buy? What is your DCA strategy for the satillionaires out there who are listening? And by the way, please smash that like and subscribe button on Andy, because we love this guy sharing his story and we want you to learn from his story, right? We want you to skip over all that and just get to dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin. So what's your dollar cost averaging strategy look like for everyone out there listening?
I cannot say I've got any sort of unique view or kind of strategy on this. I'd be curious to hear what you guys do if you do DCA, but it's a once a week, kind of small purchase, and just sort of set it on repeat, and
Okay.
Try not to get too creative.
If you're like Chris, his strategy is to smash buy Bitcoin. He takes his money, he rips the Bitcoin. He's a hungry hippo. He's just slapping the back of that thing, and it's just zhoosh, 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 right? And he's getting as many of these freaking marbles for himself as he can. And we literally love this guy. He's a Chad Michael Sailor Maxi. Safe Dean Maxi over here, okay? Nice and easy. Every Monday morning, I buy $50 worth of Bitcoin. That's it. And I go on Bitcoin Well, I pop in my order, and they send it to my wallet address that I self-custody, right? Because I want to hold the keys to my own Bitcoin. I don't want someone else to hold the keys and tell me that there is some Bitcoin there with my name on it. I want to control my Bitcoin. I want my gold coins with me. I don't want it in, a repository. So that's my DCA strategy. If you could go back to 2016, 2017, do it all over again, what would you do?
Literally that. I would do exactly that, and I would not try to mess with it. And 9 years later, I'd be very curious to see what the result would be. Actually, I don't want to do the math on that.
Well, I can do it here for you because I already know. You ready for this? Andy, $50 a month into Bitcoin, Andy. $3,000 outlay over 5 years. After spiking to a high of $500,000, it dips back down near the end, and you're left with about $250,000. Bruh. Come on.
Yeah.
You kidding me?
That's incredible.
$3,000 for 250 back.
$3,000 and you get 250. And so if you could go back again, you would just dollar cost average, nice and easy. Maybe, not even $50 a month. You probably could have done $50 a week.
Yeah.
And $50 a week over 5 years. Woo, that ain't $500K that drops down to $250K when you're done. That's something else entirely.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even know what that math is. So,
yeah.
You are now stacking sats like the rest of us.
Indeed. And it sounds like that's the correct strategy. That's an incredible overview you just gave.
And if you go back and listen to number 15, Jay, he talks about how Bitcoin is an excellent way to get an outsized return on investment without having to do literally anything at all. Literally anything at all. You just get it and you hang on to it. Okay. So, Andy, now here's the question. You're back to stacking sats like the rest of us. You bought some back in the day. Clearly, you believe in it enough to stick with it, even after your different crypto eras that you went through. So you're over here stacking sats. Guarantee it's nowhere near a significant percentage of your wealth or your portfolio, correct?
Mostly as a young entrepreneur, mostly everything is tied up in the business right now. But for the personal, bucket, I'm trying to get that Bitcoin number up, that percentage up. Yeah.
Is there anything stopping you from converting your personal life from a fiat standard to a Bitcoin standard?
What does that mean exactly?
That means that you operate with Bitcoin as your money. It's not an investment. It's not something you're holding to sell later for dollars. You're looking at Bitcoin and saying, this is the best money ever.
I'd be curious to know if I should be thinking of Bitcoin as an asset or as a currency. And is that even the correct question to ask? Because I feel like that does sort of tie into, whether to go with, the Bitcoin standard or not. So I'd be curious to get your thoughts on that.
So I know what my answer is.
Yeah, I say it's both.
Yeah.
It's both. I mean, it's limited as to where you can use it as a medium of exchange today. So you are inevitably going to run into those scenarios where you've got to convert Bitcoin back into dollars. And you might look at that and say one of two things. A, that's really inconvenient. It's doesn't give me the optionality
right
at a moment's notice that I enjoy when I hold cash. And B, you might also be concerned that, and I'm not trying to answer this question for you. I'm just talking about me personally. Yeah. You might also say, well, what if I buy Bitcoin at 100,000 and then when I need to convert it back into dollars, it's only worth 90?
Yeah.
Am I going to be, leaving something on the table?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So good point, right? Bitcoin is an asset. You can store your value inside it. And that makes it like gold. It's digital gold. The key takeaway is that Bitcoin is an asset because you can store your value in it for later. Bitcoin is also money. So it is digital gold and it is digital cash. If I want, I can buy things with Bitcoin. Some people accept it directly. If you want to pay Safedine Bitcoin for the Bitcoin standard book, you can do that. You can go on Safedine's website. He will take Bitcoin for his book. And I think it's cheaper in Bitcoin. I think you get a discount because he knows that the Bitcoin you're paying him for his book is going to go way up. So there is peer-to-peer transactions, right? And in the white paper, Satoshi says Bitcoin is electronic peer-to-peer cash. He doesn't say Bitcoin is electronic peer-to-peer gold. He says Bitcoin is electronic peer-to-peer cash. It just so happens that Bitcoin is also an incredible store of value. So it can be used as digital cash. It can be used as digital gold, but it can also be used as one more thing. What is it?
I don't know. What?
The digital unit, the yardstick by which you measure everything else. This house is worth 5 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right? My time is worth 5 Bitcoin. This car is worth 1 million sats. Mm-hmm. So it's digital gold, it's digital cash, it's the digital unit. And from my perspective, since I'm dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin, I have created a real nice cost base that's simply below the price of Bitcoin. Because when you dollar cost average, you just kind of stay in the middle of the price action from where you started and where it is now. As it goes up and as it goes down, right? As it goes up, you kind of stay behind it. As it goes down, you just add more and lower your cost basis. So I might go to sell some Bitcoin because I need the cash. And I don't care if it dips from 100K to 90K because that ain't my cost basis. Right. I dollar cost average in, and by the time I come back to that money, it's more than it was when I left it. So I don't care. You can take my sats in exchange for money because it has gone up over time. Yeah. Now, this is going to get real kind of leap of, your brain's going to take a leap here because we're all still talking about Bitcoin in dollar terms. Mm-hmm. But in reality, 1 Bitcoin is worth 1 Bitcoin.
Right.
Yeah. And for the people out there who are listening and they're still trying to determine whether Bitcoin is a good investment that will generate more dollars for them in the future, it's a big leap of faith to start thinking about Bitcoin in terms of Bitcoin. And in terms of a world where everyone uses Bitcoin and we don't really talk about dollars anymore, we say this is worth 10,000 sats, this is worth 100,000 sats, this is worth 1 Bitcoin, and we're just operating as digital cash. And at that point, what you have is, I mean, what Bitcoin really is, Andy, it's a form of money that buys you more and more over time instead of a form of money that buys you less and less over time. And a lot of people look at that and say, oh, this must be an asset. And they're right. But truly what it is money.
Which is incredibly exciting because, you know, in our business, we're doing a lot of foreign transactions. We're importing goods from overseas. And it's probably just the process of paying a manufacturer is, if it's someone who's overseas, it's one of the most frustrating and just seemingly non 2025 activities you can possibly do, because every step of the way, you know, you've got a different sort of hand that you have to pay, and converting the currency, you know, having the money be remitted to the other person's bank. I mean, you're looking in some cases at 3, 4, 5 days. And along the way, you know, if there's a large currency fluctuation, then either you're losing margin or they're losing margin. And, you know, regardless of what happens, you know, no one's particularly happy about it. So that's something that I'm very intrigued by. And I love what you guys have said, which is sort of, it's not a binary. It's either it is a currency and an asset, because both, you know, attributes of it are in many ways equally exciting. And a world where, you know, we're paying with Bitcoin, the manufacturer is willing to receive it in Bitcoin would, you know, be a much more kind of efficient and lucrative world for everyone involved. So, but hope, fingers crossed, we're moving in that direction sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's really interesting, by the way. This idea of there being waste in the international payment space.
Yeah.
And what would happen if you could transact peer-to-peer digital cash with your suppliers overseas, and you know that you're sending them the exact value of those supplies in Bitcoin terms, the digital unit, and they're receiving the exact value, because all you need to do is pay the transaction fee to, you know, incentivize a miner to commit that transaction as part of the next block. And can you imagine going from 3 to 4 or 5 days to 10 minutes?
I mean, that's everything, right?
And what are some of the fees that you're incurring? Just, can you break that down a little bit for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason that, as best I can tell, it's the two banks verifying the information and doing it in a particularly manual way and in sort of a cross-country way. And if we're wiring funds over, you know, that's always going to have a fee associated with it. One of the major things that we've come across, especially if we're dealing with someone who's a relatively new manufacturer that we're buying from, is just the amount of information verification that you have to send even after sending the money over. So the funds might actually be safely deposited in the bank of the seller, but the bank will hold on to it until they check every box that, you know, they're asking you to check. And many times it's information we've already previously sent, but it didn't somehow get, you know, translated from one person to another, and one department to another at that bank. So it's a frustrating process. I mean, you can get about it if we don't do this really as much anymore, really at all anymore. But in the early days of the company, had to get scrappy, and we bought a decent amount of stuff off Alibaba. And these were goods that were manufactured in China. And there, you know, most of the time you're, depending on the size of the purchase, you're paying with a credit card. Obviously, though, those processing fees, they're going to pass that off to you. So you immediately lose 300 basis points of margin for each transaction you do there. So ACHing, you know, obviously is more cost effective, but it's not instantaneous, and it's alarming, you know, how long it takes. The flip side of that is, all right, you know, when you're doing international business and you're buying something from someone overseas, you want to make sure that the money doesn't just poof and go off. So it's good that there are some checks and balances, but when you look at the blockchain, when you look at the system of verification that's sort of already built in, that seems to be a much cleaner system than the very manual process that we're currently going through right now.
So you have a credit card option, which is faster but costs more.
Yep.
Or you have an ACH option that is less expensive but takes more time.
Bingo.
Do you get the sense that the third parties, banks that are involved in the ACH transaction are intentionally being sticky and I mean, you kind of mentioned like they'll require boxes checked that have already been checked, but do you get the sense that 3% is kind of being earned, or those 300 basis points are being earned just on the time value of your money, or is this just an antiquated system?
Look, I am willing to have that conversation, and I've thought it before. We're not dealing with massive sums of money on each one of these transactions by any means. But when you multiply that out by everyone else who is doing this, clearly banks are incentivized to hold funds and earn interest on those funds for as long as they can before throwing up any red flags. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm not suggesting that's what's happening. It just, it does make you think a little bit.
Okay. Well, I'll suggest it, by the way, because that is literally what's happening. The idea of making money off the float is so powerful that everybody does it.
Yeah.
I used to sell payroll software, and that big old company's revenue, a significant portion of it came from telling you that you needed to process your payroll on Wednesday to get paid out on Friday. And that we would go ahead and pull those funds on a Wednesday because we got to make sure they get there on time on Friday. No, we don't. We got to take your money on Wednesday. We got to make money overnight. We got to make money all day Thursday. We got to make money overnight. Then we got to cash out, and then we got to actually deliver that money on Friday. But we did that for hundreds of thousands of people doing payroll, right? Mm-hmm. You make whenever you become a clearinghouse for a great deal of money, it becomes profitable to hit that float. It's called the float. The time between when you get it and when you deliver it, you can invest that little buddy, right?
Yeah.
Woo, my goodness. So yeah, I'll suggest it. Do you think that your overseas suppliers would be open to the Bitcoin conversation?
We have not raised it. I think it's funny. We had an investor call this morning, and one takeaway from it was it never hurts to ask, just in general. So it never hurts to ask. It never hurts to talk about it. One thing that I felt early in my Bitcoin journey in 2016, 2017 was it was all pretty complicated just to interact, just to buy things online, buy Bitcoin online, to sort of do all the different steps involved and storing it and whatnot. That has changed dramatically in the last 8-9 years. And it seems like without compromising the security of it, it's just gotten a lot easier and more user-friendly to just transact it from peer to peer with the dashboards and whatnot that have built on top of it. So I think it's worth the conversation. Absolutely. For us.
Well, I happen to know in my business more than one manufacturer who is buying overseas raw materials in the form of ingredients for the food or beverage products that they make using Bitcoin.
That's huge.
Huge.
Yeah, that's huge.
That's happening today.
That's crazy. That's happening today.
So when people talk about Bitcoin as just digital gold, I can tell you categorically, it is not just that.
Yeah.
People are transacting large transactions today with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can personally prove to you that Bitcoin is digital cash, because if you come to my house with Bitcoin, you just tell me what item from inside that house you want, and I'll give it to you in exchange for Bitcoin, baby, because I want some Bitcoin. You want this couch? Whatever, take it. You want this fridge? I'll get a different one later. Come on in, dude. I'll show you it's digital cash. You kidding me? So, and I also want you to imagine a world where you smash buy some Bitcoin for your company to use as payments to your suppliers. And let's say you calculate the annual amount that you're going to pay them. Obviously, as a startup, you probably don't have all that capital set aside. But let's just imagine you did. And you said, I know I'm going to be able to pay. I know I need to pay them $100K this year. Smash buy $100K of Bitcoin. And then as you pay them for their services, the amount of Bitcoin you need to pay them for the same stuff goes down as the value of Bitcoin goes up. And of course, there's fluctuations, volatile, all good. You can even kind of game that a little bit and say, yeah, we'll pay you, but it's 90K today. I'm going to wait for it to be 100K tomorrow. And then we're going to go ahead and send you the sats now, whatever. The idea that you could potentially be paying them less and less effectively over time for the same stuff, because your money buys you more versus money that buys you less. Then we're getting crazy.
I mean, look, there's a non-0% chance I'm going to go into the office in a couple hours and tell my business partner, John, we need to convert everything. And he's going to be very confused.
No.
I got a board meeting next week.
He's the finance guy.
Same thing. Yeah.
You're going to say, what's your business partner's name, Andy?
John.
You're going to be like, John, we got to yeet ourselves into Bitcoin. Oh my God.
Say, Andy, sit down.
Dollars are money. What are we doing? We're using quicksand for money. John?
Talk about a competitive advantage. Just go find the vendors who are willing to deal in Bitcoin and deal with them and them only.
Yeah.
And just keep the margin that you were flushing down the toilet before.
Yeah.
Transact faster than anybody else in your category and just run amok.
Just shred them. Shred them alive. All right. So Bitcoin is financial gunpowder, Andy.
Yeah.
And when gunpowder was created or discovered, if you went to the battlefield and you had not adopted gunpowder, what happened to you?
You were that's out of luck.
You lost.
Yes.
You lost, right? That's it. You lost.
Yeah.
If you did not adopt gunpowder, as soon as it came out, you lost. Bitcoin is financial gunpowder. It's not like, well, I might be, dude, if you don't have Bitcoin, you lost.
Yeah.
You must adopt it because it is financial gunpowder. And I absolutely love that you're going to talk to your business partner about using Bitcoin. And maybe you don't necessarily need to go all in on Bitcoin, although I think you should. You could just buy a little bit and try one transaction. Say, look, okay, we'll send you your dollar amount in Bitcoin. Okay, how would you like it if it came in 10 minutes instead of 5 days and you got exactly how much we agreed to without losing anything as currencies kind of float against one another? I mean, shoot, I bet your supplier would be open to that.
Absolutely.
And I think you know, we were all talking over each other, but you might not have heard this, Andy. Chris has got a board meeting next week. And what did you say?
I mean, this is a topic.
Yeah.
Ithaca hummus.
Yeah.
Bitcoin treasury.
You're seeing it more and more in the earnings calls from public companies talking about, you know, what's actually constitutes their balance sheet and how much of that is a Bitcoin treasury.
Let's recap. What we have for you satillionaires out there today is Andy, who represents the future of American enterprise in ways that you all can't even conceptualize of yet. You all don't even have what it takes to know what you're looking at. The same way many of us don't know what we're looking at the first time we look at Bitcoin, okay? And Andy is an entrepreneur. He comes from a family of entrepreneurs. He starts businesses. He builds businesses. He's got his restaurant supply company. He's got his newsletter. He heard about Bitcoin. He smash bought some Bitcoin. He smash bought a bunch of other random sundries and then really started smash buying some random sundries. I mean, I'm talking about like woo, just yeeted himself into non-fungible tokens.
We
Let's
don't
roll.
talk about that era.
Holy
Tough era.
smoke. And if he could go, and now after he has gone on his whole big journey, okay, where he absolutely gets twisted all upside down and around, he's back to staying humble and stacking sats. And if he could do it all over again, he would just stay humble and stack sats, because it's literally all you need to do. But what we've learned today is that Bitcoin might be an excellent instrument for settling international transactions. Faster, more secure, preserves more of the money that's being transferred, etc. Right?
Cheaper.
So after today's conversation, how do you feel, Andy?
I feel very bullish, and much more so than I did an hour ago. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Andy, bullish on Bitcoin, right?
We have that effect on people.
You do.
Bitcoin has that effect on people. We're just bozos on the bus here, man.
Touche.
It's Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin that does it, right? And we feel like one of the biggest barriers to people stacking sats is having somebody sit down and talk to them about it, right? You've got to chat about sats. That's it. Tell everyone out there where the name of your restaurant supply company, how they can find you in terms of whether they want to work with you to supply their restaurants more effectively, and where they can go to get at your newsletter, which, by the way, I have read. And Andy has managed to take me from literally not caring at all about the restaurant industry to being fully geeked out on the restaurant industry. And he wrote a piece on a pizza chain in Russia that was literally, I would stack that up against anybody else's writing.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
So tell the people where they can go.
I really appreciate that. And thank you guys both for having me on. This has been a blast. So our company is called FS Supply. We're at fssupply.com, and stands for food service supply. So we do a lot of custom logoed goods for restaurant chains. We also have a lot of eco-friendly products as well, like sugarcane and molded fiber and things like that. And we do some supply chain consulting too. So we consult with CPG companies, restaurant chains, and anyone kind of in food service. And you can sign up for the newsletter there. Right, once a week, comes out every Tuesday. Talk about restaurants, talk about the supply chain, and thank you.
So normally we invite peeps to try some Ithaca hummus. Obviously, you're in Dallas. And, as the show matures, I do believe that Ithaca hummus will be able to send you your own personal drone holding a nice, clean tub of Ithaca hummus and just maybe even smash through the window of your house as we're on the call and just like an owl dropping off a broomstick there in the Great Hall, right?
I mean, we'd repair it on the way out too, obviously.
But for now,
appreciated.
Let's ask you something real quick, because we're going to make you an offer here. But before we do, have you ever tried Ithaca hummus?
I have. Yes. Top-notch product.
Whoa.
Yes. Top-notch product.
Look, Andy, I've got some good news for you and big news for the audience that's down there in Texas. We are about to launch in HEB.
Let's go.
Harold E. Butts. Here we come.
Amazing.
What?
Yes, sir.
I was hoping you would say that.
Yep.
Harold. Okay, dude. Harold E. Butts. That's a place where you can go in Texas.
That is the institution. Absolutely.
Is that like the Harris Teeter of Texas? Is HEB?
Precisely.
Yeah. That kind of a perfect comp, honestly.
OMG, dude. So go to Harold E. Butts.
HEB.
HEB. Okay, HEB.
Man, I'm so excited.
Which flavor have you tried, Andy?
I think it was the everything bagel, which was the one that I put on the list as well. Yeah. Top notch.
Nice.
That's a fire flavor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's make him an offer.
All right. So we offer our guests value for value as a small token of our appreciation for your time with us this afternoon. We're going to give you a choice between 50 USD,
Okay.
this dirty old folded up Who knows where that's
what
been?
is this? This gnarly cotton linen blend, whatever this thing is. 50 nimbly wimblies.
Okay. Or $50 in sats, which if we look at the Clark Moody dashboard right now, the price of one Bitcoin is 96,280. Just jumped. 70. Okay, I better hurry up. Which means sats per dollar, the Satoshis per dollar is 1,039 sats per dollar. So I'm going to go into my calculator and say 1039 times 50. That's 51,950 sats or $50.
So $50, that'll likely buy you $20 worth of stuff later.
Yep.
Or 51,950 sats that will likely buy you more than $50 worth of stuff later. Which one do you want?
I think I'm gonna take the sats.
Yeah, boy! Come on!
Yeah.
Get them sats.
All right,
Let's
what's our
stack
record?
them up.
What's our record now?
So our record is now 19-1.
Wow, you had one take the cash.
Number 9, Paul.
Number 9, Paul.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't be focusing on the negative. 19 out of 20 is amazing.
A Bitcoiner with Bitcoin who trades options and stocks and believes cash is king. The fellow is an enigma wrapped in a mystery, threaded through with a conundrum. So Andy took the sats. Let's go.
Excellent
19-1. We're going to help you stay humble and stack sats. And we hope that everyone out there stays humble and stacks sats. So help Sat Chats chat with as many people possible about sats. Help us stack up those likes and subscribes. Hit us with 5 stars on Spotify. We're trying to get to 999 plus 1 subscribers as quick as humanly possible, so that we can unlock a live show Friday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll jump into the studio. We'll jump on YouTube. Our producer, Jeremy, he wants to send us out everywhere, LinkedIn, Twitch, all of it. And we will chat about sats in real time with you. Andy will be in the chat. He'll be showing you how easy it is to just make international transactions in 10 minutes. It's going to be amazing. So help us get there. Share it with your friends, your family, share it with your enemies. If you're number 19, Jay, let's go. And remember, Sat Chats is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice. Also, our guests' views are their own. Thanks so much. We'll see you on the next one.